What is going on, GBA? I am the Confusion, and welcome back to the last episode of the weekly recap for the regular season. Do not forget that next week, me and my partner in crime, Spastic, will be here to cover the first week of playoffs. But speaking about my partner in crime, Spastic.
Yeah, buddy. Here we are, week 12. It's almost over. I can't believe it. But nope, it is truth. It is fact. It is going to happen. And it has indeed happened, ladies and gentlemen. Week 12. We are done with the regular season.
Yeah, this is going to be exciting. Let me tell you guys, I am excited to cover the last week of the weekly recaps because let me tell you, this season has been phenomenal, especially with the new coaches, especially with you guys, and especially with Gen 7. So I'm very excited to wrap this season up, at least the regular season, and talk about the game. So I only felt that it was, fitting to start the weekly recap with the most important game of the week, which is Tom versus Chase, the Detroit Steel Wings versus the San Jose Sharpedos. And Chase is bringing Volcarona, Crocodile, Cobalion, Slowbro, Serena, and Smeargle, and Tom is bringing his Thunderous Therian, Nidoqueen, Vaporeon, Zelf, Hitmonlee, and Darmanitan. Now, if you guys don't know, Tom and Chase did battle before in the season, and Tom ended up getting a win because of the timer, but don't worry, that did not happen this time around. They did have a battle. And if you guys did not know, the winner of this match did decide who would be the last seed in the playoffs. So let's get into what happened this game. We have a lead of Thunderous Therian versus Smeargle, both of these Pokemon being Scarfed, and both of them being actually a little funky. The Thundurus is carrying a physical set, moves like U-Turn, Knockoff, Superpower, and Thunder Punch, something you really wouldn't expect on a Thunderous Therian just because it has an insane 145 base special attack and only a base 105 attack, so you usually don't see the attack come into play unless it's for utility, not just to run fully physically offensive, especially with it only having Thunder Punch to hit that hard. And then we have Smeargle, also a Scarf set, running complete utility, but great utility. It has Trick to trick a Choice Scarf onto Fat Mons. It has something like Transform, which is really cool because you get to transform with a Choice Scarf, outspeed something, and then take a hit as the new Mon. It also was running Spore and Parting Shot, so we'll see that come into play later on. But what happens first time around is the Thundurus is going to go for that U-turn on the Smeargle. It does give Chase the information that Thundurus is a little bit physical. He doesn't know completely that it's physically offensive, but he does know it has some physical investment, which is going to come into play. After that, Smeargle does transform onto the Darmanitan as that thing is brought in, and it really helps Chase identify that Darmanitan set. Looking at it, it had Flame Charge, and that was a big red flag that thing was not going to be Choice Scarfed. You usually don't run something that boosts your speed on a Choice Scarf Mon, so Chase did make the correct assumption in his commentary, assuming that thing was going to be Assault Vest. But he does Rock Slide that Darmanitan with the Smeargle, and it only allows the Nidoqueen to come in and the hazards begin. What caused Chase to lose last time they played is probably what's going to lose him this time around. The Toxic Spikes are going to play a huge role in this game, because what happens next, the Slowbro does come in, is able to Toxic Vaporeon on the switch, but again, this Vaporeon is no ordinary Vaporeon. It is offensive as hell. It is running a modest 252 Expert Belt set, and that thing has coverage. So it is able to catch the Serena on the switch with an Ice Beam. Props to Tom, that was a great prediction. And the Serena is forced to either Rapid Spin to get rid of the Toxic Spikes, or set up a Light Screen and try to get Volcarona to start sweeping. What happens is Chase is going to go for the Light Screen, simply because if he went for Rapid Spin, the Nidoqueen was still relatively healthy, and that thing could probably get out the Toxic Spikes, as it can live probably almost every hit that Detroit Steel Wings could send its way, so it really wasn't worth it. He ended up just going for the Light Screen, and that is going to help him, as we'll see. Although the Volcarona does come in, it can't really sweep on with the Darmanitan around. Tom does make the smart play, goes straight into the Darmanitan onto the Volcarona Quiver Dance, and because Darmanitan is Assault Vest, and more specifically, because Chase realized this early on in the game, he is going to make the smart decision and switch out, even though he set up to +1, and even though it's going to waste one turn of that Light Screen. What happens next is the Crocodile is going to be able to get up those rocks, but all that does is allow Nidoqueen to come in and get its own rocks up. Albeit, Crook does get the rocks up, which is going to help weaken the Darmanitan and the Thundurus. But unfortunately, getting those rocks up on Chase's side is not going to help him, especially with Pokemon like Volcarona on his side of the field. It's just not a lot of fun. Clearly, hazards are going to play a big role in this game, as you'll see, and chipping away at Mons is going to be super annoying for both sides. Next up, we do have a Zelf. It does have a Cobra Berry, so it's not too afraid of coming in on that Crocodile, taking a knockoff, and setting up a nasty plot. Now, don't forget that that light screen is still up. So Chase switches into Slowbro to gauge the damage, see if what move he's going to go for. He ends up going for the Ice Beam, and that hits the Slowbro super hard. Luckily for him, Light Screen was up. He doesn't take that much damage. It does do over half, but Regenerator is going to help out that Slowbro. And Chase is just going to switch back out into Crocodile and sack that thing off. So, as of getting a kill, obviously the Nasty Plot set is super threatening. But, like I mentioned before, the Smeargle was Choice Scarfed. It is able to come in and spore the Azelf, putting that thing to sleep right away. And as soon as that happens, he is able to kill it with the Slowbro. So Slowbro is able to kill off that Azelf. Thank goodness to the Spore on the Scarf Smeargle. Definitely saved him there from the Azelf sweep. Later on, we do see that Thundurus is able to come back in. He is able to kill the Slowbro, and he's able to spam Thunder Punch. I mean, there's no Crocodile, there's no more Tsareena. Thunder Punch is a very safe play. He kills the Slowbro, and then the Cobalion comes in. What Tom is going to do is click Thunder Punch, just get some good damage on that thing, as Chase is going to set up a Swords Dance. So, after that, the second Thunder Punch goes off, and Cobalion is able to finally get rid of that Thundurus with the Stone Edge, which is going to be huge. Getting rid of a Scarf Sweeper like that is going to be really great for Chase. So we'll see how that works out. Later on, we do see that Volcarona tries setting up again. Does some good damage to the... I mean, it doesn't set up. What it does is go for the Psychic, excuse me. Goes for the Psychic. It hits Darmanitan as it takes Rocks damage. And then Chase later on goes for the HP Rock. Does really good damage to the Darmanitan. Obviously not enough to kill it. And Darmanitan is able to get rid of that thing with the Flame Charge. Now, let's talk about the Flame Charge. As I was watching this, the Flame Charge did go off, and I was thinking from the beginning, wait, Sheer Force. If he was not running Zen mode, Sheer Force does negate any additional effect a move has. Things like Bulldoze, Flame Charge, Charge Beam, moves like that which will boost your stats like by a lot or almost even 100% will be completely negated for the 20% boost. So the Flame Charge does not raise the Darmanitan's speed, and both coaches failed to realize that within the actual match, which is kind of annoying. Chase didn't realize that at first, and neither did Tom. Only afterwards did he realize that the Flame Charge was not going to work with the Sheer Force. But regardless, it does not cause him too much harm. The Cobalion does come in, kill off the Darmanitan, and at the end, we just have a 50-50. The same way Chase, Crimson Seabed, started off the season with a 50-50 versus Monotoule, and switching between the Buzzwole, the same thing is going to happen here. It's whether Chase switches into his Smeargle or does not. Chase does not make the correct 50-50. Tom does make the correct prediction. Close combats the Smeargle in the end, and is finally able to endure, get the speed boost, and kill off the Cobalion. That is going to put Tom in the seed for the playoffs, and Chase is going to unfortunately end his season here, but definitely a phenomenal game. Both coaches came here not doing so well, not having a great record, but definitely came here this season and proved themselves as phenomenal battlers. So Spastic, what did you think of this game?
This was a painful match to watch because I was rooting for both coaches. Like, in Season 5, Chase didn't do so hot. Last season, Tom didn't do so hot. Both coaches were on a roll this season, and I was really rooting for both of them. I wanted them both to win. I knew it was not going to happen, so it was one of those, I could have been fine with either one winning. So it was one of those, it was heart-pounding, it was intense, but it was going to be bittersweet one way or the other. So major props to Tom for pulling it out this season, for turning it around from last season. Major props to Chase for turning it around from Season 5, making a triumphant return this season. The Smeargle set, a Scarf utility set, especially with the Transform. Really nice, as transforming is the best way to scout for a move, scout for an entire set, as we're going to see in the next game with the San Francisco Giants versus the Utah Jasmine. Geo bringing Heliolisk, Remix, Umbreon, Bronzong, Tapu Fini, and Salamence, while Necrosteo brings Zapdos, Cloyster, Golbat, Swellow, Reuniclus, and Lantern. Now, as mentioned before, transforming is the best way to scout for a set. Geo leading with Remix to getting a nice read on the Reuniclus, finding out that it is a surprisingly offensive set, and allowing him to figure out that yes, this thing is probably running Assault Vest. He does it later on the Golbat, finding out that it does in fact not run Toxic, so the rest of his team can switch in relatively safely without having to worry about getting whittled down by the Toxic poisoning. Now, spoiler alert, this match is not nearly as long or as intense as the previous match that we just talked about, but for the first 20 or so turns, both coaches making very defensive plays, Umbreon doing great Wish Protect work as it has all season. And then it does take out the Reuniclus with a foul play after it misses 2 Focus Blasts. Swellow comes in, Geo sacks off the Bronzong, as Swellow comes in, Boom bursts it to Oblivion, and then a couple of defensive switches, but then Tapu Fini comes in, sets up a Calm Mind, gets an Ice Beam off on the Golbat, and gets a very lucky Freeze, allowing it to set up 2 more Calm Minds before it thaws out, but it still goes down anyway. So Geo setting up 3 Calm Minds with Tapu Fini. The rest of Stevo's team not really able to do a whole lot of damage physically, barring Cloyster, but earlier it was taken down quite a bit by the Umbreon with foul play. So Tapu Fini at +3/+3 takes hits and then just proceeds to run through the rest of Stevo's team, taking out the Zapdos, taking out the Cloyster, Golbat, Swellow, and the Lantern, all back to back to back to back to back. So Geo getting a clean 5-0 win with, yet again, another sweep. Last week it was Salamence going on a rampage. This week, Tapu Fini, a normally defensive Mon, but still has good offensive presence, proving that a Calm Mind setup is not to be trifled with. So Geo coming in at a nice 8-4 ratio to end his season, and he is going to cleanly enter the playoffs. Confusion, your thoughts on this intense but relatively short match?
Again, I thought it was great. I mean, I'm happy it wasn't a stall fest and it didn't go down to timer. At least this week we're a little bit relaxed on those. But I have to say, Geo did play really well that game, especially playing around with Remix. The Ditto is such a great utility Mon, and Geo is really prone to using that Mon. He really knows how to use that Mon, and it does allow for a lot of help, especially for such a low cost. Although it was free draft this season, normally Ditto is priced low, so it's a great utility pick if you want to pick that up, and I'm happy to see that he was able to bring it back and use that to some great potential. So going into the next game, we do have the St. Louis Rampardos up against the Philadelphia Scissors. Dan is bringing Victini, Terrakion, Clefable, Exploud, Toxapex, and Electros. Chimp is bringing Thundurus Incarnate, Azumarill, Dugtrio, Cofagrigus, Fortress, and the Zoroark. Now, there's 2 different perspectives when you were watching this game. If you're watching this game from Dan's perspective, it was kind of gloomy. It was kind of, sad to see Dan not so into it. Obviously, he doesn't have a chance in the playoffs, to get to playoffs, but he definitely put up a good fight. A lot of his games were really close, but when you were watching it from Chimp's side, him and his little cousin or nephew, or he had a little mini Chimp was with him, and they were having a lot of fun, making some really good predictions around Dan's team. And so to start off that battle, we do have Fortress up against the Terrakion. Not a great matchup for Dan. He is going to switch out into the Victini and set up a sub, as the Fortress is able to get up both its Stealth Rocks and at least 1 layer of spikes. That's going to really hurt Dan's team. He does not have any hazard removal this game, no Scizor, so that's going to be really annoying for him to deal with, as we're going to obviously see. Since Dan has a lot of hazards on his side, he is going to have to sack his Victini to the Zoroark after the Fortress does go for Explosion onto the Victini sub. So Right before that fortress goes down, he is able to get rid of the substitute as it explodes, bring in the Zoroark, and kill off that Victini. So that's going to be really, really nice. He does play nicely, though. Dan does play nicely around the Zoroark. But once Zoroark does get a Dark Pulse on the Terrakion, and Zoroark is forced to switch, as Chimp switches into the Cofagrigus, the Stone Edge does miss. And let me tell you, that has been the defining characteristic of Dan's games this season. Last season, it was all about missing Toxics. This season, it's all about missing Stone Edges. It's always missing something when it comes to Dan, but he does, unfortunately, miss that Stone Edge, passes off on a potential 2 KO on the Cofagrigus, as the Cofagrigus is able to stick around, and that's going to be really nice. Otherwise, I'm just going to cover some really interesting things I found in that game. We do have Skill Swap Cofagrigus, giving something Mummy and taking something's ability, most notably when it comes to Exploud. It can only Boom Burst Cofagrigus if it has Scrappy. So if Chimpact removes that, then it is scarfed into a move that does not affect Cofagrigus. Really good. And at the same time, although we did not see it, Skill Swap would have worked on the Electros, got rid of Levitate, and Dugtrio would have trapped it. So that is really, really cool to see him utilize Skill Swap on a mon like Cofagrigus. We also see red card on the Toxapex. Now, unfortunately, the red card does trigger and bring in Dugtrio. So horrible, horrible luck for Dan. Dugtrio, the one mon that Toxapex does not want to be bringing in, but does bring it in with the red card, and is just forced to sack off the Toxapex to the Dugtrio because it is locked in due to Arena Trap. So that's going to be annoying on his side. The Clefable is going to die to Dugtrio's 3 Earthquakes. The first one does around, 50%. The second one was going to kill it. But Dan does bring Endure Clefable. Endure with the Salac Berry allows it to live any hit, raise its speed, and try to sweep. But unfortunately for Dan, and very fortunately for Chimp, Chimp does have a Scarf Dugtrio, so that's really not going to worry him because Scarf Dugtrio will outspeed a +1 Clefable 100% of the time. So he's really not going to get a great advantage in that, and a lot of his mons are just sacked over and over again to the hazards. After that, the Electros, the Exploud simply died to the hazards, and Zoroark and Azumarill just going for the attack. So a very fairly simple game played on Showdown. Not too crazy of a match, but just props to both players. I know Dan has put a lot of effort into trying his best this season. Same with Chimp, and they both have done really well. So kudos to them. What did you think of it, Spastic?
A lot of Showdown matches this week. Geo and Necrosteo played on Showdown. A couple other matches played on Showdown, but Dan bringing a team he's mostly comfortable with, especially with Terrakion and Victini and Toxapex. Chimpact bringing his A game and getting a nice win. I mean, it was painful to see Dan so disheartened and so gloomy, especially since the seasons 5 and season 6 especially, he brought such fire, he brought such passion. But I mean, when you're on a losing streak, it can be disheartening in a lot of ways. So I'm really hoping next season he can come back around and just punch through like he did before. But speaking of punching through, we're going to talk about the next match, which is the Alolan Athletic versus the San Diego Chimp Chargers. Callum bringing Frostlass, Tyranitar, Excadrill, Shaman, Rotom Wash, and Crobat, while Envy brings Pelipper, Landorus Therian, Magnezone, Kabutops, Virizion, and Alolan Muck. Another Showdown match. Oh boy. So, turn 1, Magnezone gets up a sub, then sets up a Magnet Rise while it's facing down Excadrill, so that way it doesn't have to worry about Earthquake. Couple of switches. Lando sets up Brox, but both coaches go for momentum, go for Volt switches and U-turns, and lots of double switches for a good number of turns. Frostlass sets up a layer of spikes, goes for the Destiny Bond, expecting Alolan Muck to take it out with a knockoff, or Pursuit. Unfortunately, Alolan Muck goes for the Poison Jab, does not KO Frostlass, and Destiny Bond was changed this generation to where if you use it multiple times, it has a chance of failing, much in the same vein as Protect and those types of moves. So Destiny Bond does indeed fail. Frostlass gets KO'd without setting up the Destiny Bond, so Alolan Muck is there to stay for a while. In fact, it knocks off Tyranitar's Chople Berry, then proceeds to deal huge amounts of damage with Brick Break, which allows Landorus Therian to come in and kill Tyranitar with a U-turn. Crobat comes in, knocks out Virizion with a U-turn after a Stone Edge misses. Running theme for the week. Missing Stone Edges. Pelipper the Strongjaw sets up Rain, and then Kabutops goes on a Swift Swim boosted rampage until Shaman comes out after the Rain dies. But Pelipper comes back in, sets up the Rain, dies to Shaman. Kabutops comes in again with the Rain, takes out Shaman. So, not something we saw a whole lot of this season, but Swift Swim Kabutops getting its moment in the spotlight towards the end of the season. Pelipper with its Drizzle this gen really come into full effect this last match especially. So, props to both coaches. Yeah, Callum getting a hiccup with the Destiny Bond. Not really a misplay so much as a generational changes. So, can't really call that a misplay so much as oops. But Envy playing really well as he usually does with momentum, gauging his opponent's checks and balances. So yeah, great game to both coaches. What are your thoughts, Confusion?
Yeah, when it comes to Callum, at least, I know that he did not have a lot of information regarding the changes when it comes to the way certain things have, developed within this new generation. Obviously, when he still had Sableye, when he used it up against Chase and Crimson Seabad, he did not know that he couldn't Will-O-Wisp the Serena because of Prankster, or even Will-O-Wisp Crocodile because of its Dark typing because of Prankster. He also didn't know that he couldn't burn the Araquanid, and this time we also see that he kind of hiccups with the Destiny Bond. So obviously, not knowing too much about Generation 7 does hurt him, in my opinion, and it kind of affects how he played this season. Not too much, but it definitely had its minor effect. So in that sense, I would say that he's definitely learned the hard way and is not going to forget these new rules. When it comes to MV, it's so hard to prepare for rain or for sand or for sun or for hail because it feels so obvious. Like, okay, you have your weather setter and you have your weather sweeper. It just feels so obvious when it comes to play that it's like, okay, but that's so obvious. He's not gonna bring that. It's too obvious. But when the opponent does bring the rain, it's almost unstoppable if you're not fully prepared for it, and that definitely happens this game. So, looking into the next game, we have the Pittsburgh Piratas up against the Borussia Donphan. Lars versus Tup, two people that I have a lot of respect for, two people I consider really good friends. They're great people, and they put up a really good fight. This is Tup's last battle of the season. He has not picked up a win. So let's look at what happens this time around. We do have Lars having an amazing team in general. Like, he was not too worried about how he was going to play just because they're both not in it for the playoffs. But in general, just Lars has a better matchup when it comes to things like the Rocky Helmet Magearna. A defensive Magearna takes so many hits from so many different things. Tapu Koko's U-turn is gonna definitely hurt it because Magearna's 4 times resistance to U-turn and the Rocky Helmet damage is going to come back and hit that Koko at 16%, and the same thing for the Staraptor. Staraptor cannot hit that thing super effectively at all. Close combat's a neutral hit, Double Edge and Brave Bird is resisted, and taking Rocky Helmet and the recoil on those moves is detrimental to Pokemon like Staraptor. So that's definitely not something that's going to be so nice for Tup to kind of work around with. He is going to work around it when it comes later on in the match, but it's definitely going to be a nuisance early on. After that, though, we do have Magearna with the Volt Switch. Magearna, under the electric terrain, gets a nice big Volt Switch off on the Slowking later on in the game. Slowking, really interesting set I saw. It did have Belch, and for those who don't know how the attack Belch works, it is a special attack. It's a poison move and it has 120 base power. The reason it is not run so commonly is because you have to consume a berry before you do so. So what happens in this case is the Slowking Tup uses Substitute multiple amounts of time, as the Latias sends off Draco Meteors, and it does get the Aguav Berry, which heals up the Slowking by 50%, and now it is able to get off Belches off. Mainly it was there for the Primarina, just so we can get a much bigger hit, surprise that thing. But it does do a significant amount of damage to the Latias too, and that is not going to be too fun for Lars. But thankfully he has Recover, he has his Soul Dew, he's going to be doing a good amount of damage. Thanks to that Soul Dew, he is able to break a substitute on a Slowking with the second Draco Meteor, so that is really, really big. Later on, we just see Rotom Heat and its Spadef for Coco having a huge play in this game. Coco cannot really U-turn because it could take the Rocky Helmet damage from the Magearna, and if it's going to click Thunderbolt or Dazzling Gleam, there's clearly the Spadef Rotom Heat that is going to be nice. Top did realize that because he didn't have Scissor, Rotom Heat could have ran a fully specially defensive set, and that's not going to be too great for Top. He doesn't have too much to answer that. When it comes to his Nidoking, because it was Scarfed, it could not lock itself into Earthquake, so it could not always come in on the Magearna and do a lot of damage. That is going to be really annoying, especially when it comes to Pokemon like Hitmontop, not being able to take too much damage. Slowking, Hitmontop getting whittled down, and Lars just having the right defensive checks within a core of Latias, Rotom Heat, and Magearna. So that is going to be a lot of back and forth, but once, all of that settles down and damage is done, Primarina does kill off the Hydreigon once that thing comes in. The double Earth Power would have been nice, but he goes for Dragon Pulse first on the Primarina, doesn't do any damage. Second time around, does get the Earth Power off, but Primarina is able to Moonblast that thing and get rid of it. Lars made a good early prediction though, clicking Scald just in case that Nidoking wanted to come in, and then after that, murdering that Hydreigon with the Moonblast. Afterwards, Top did still have a chance. If he scarfed his Nidoking into Poison Jab, he could have been in a really good position, especially since the Crawdont was weakened to a certain extent, taking Scalds from the Slowking. So the way that worked is if the Crawdont did not kill Nidoking with the Aqua Jet, Nidoking could have won. And looking at the damage calc, a Adamant Life Orb 252 attack Crawdont to just a 4 HP Nidoking has an 87.5% chance to kill. So it could not have 100% guaranteed that kill, but don't worry, Lars made a very smart move when it comes to team prep and put Aqua Jet on his Primarina too to chip that thing low enough for Aqua Jet to later on kill on the Crawdont. So I gotta give props to Lars for his team prep, for the way he built. I gotta say the Magearna was a great set, Rotom Heat was a great set. His matchup in general and the way he played definitely helped in this game for sure. And unfortunately, we are going to see Top pull a Manchester Magnezone, if you know what I mean, and get no wins this season. Super, super unfortunate, but I have to say, Tup is still a great battler. I think he learned so much this season, as he has in Season 4 and Season 5. The way he plays varies, and I think this season is going to very much help him as he plays in the off-season too and try to get back into his grind. Definitely going to come back stronger, I can assure you guys that. Do not lose hope in Tup, but what did you think?
Unfortunately, this ends Lars' season as well, but to see both coaches still go at it with all that they had, to take it seriously, like, there is a lot to be said for coaches who bring heat and just not take it too seriously, but make it more fun. But to see both coaches really give it their all and really give it a try, Lars genuinely prepping, Tup genuinely prepping. So this was a really good match to watch, if a bit heartbreaking because neither coach could go to the playoffs, but to watch them both play seriously and give it their all was really nice, especially the Aqua Jet on the Primarina. Not totally expected, but hey. But speaking of prepping seriously as opposed to bringing heat, we're going to talk about some heat this next match. We're going to talk about the New Orleans Pelipers versus the Milwaukee Sawsbucks. John bringing Jolteon, Uxie, Tapu Bulu, Piloswine, Skarmory, and Porygon Z, while BattleRx brings Kartana, Meloetta, Mimikyu, Swampert, Kommo-o, and Xurkitree. First order of business, Uxie gets a crit knockoff on Meloetta before it U-turns out. Meloetta loses its Assault Vest, which, after being knocked down to well below 25%, it loses its viability and is basically death fodder. But BattleRx makes a critical prediction. Swampert enters the battlefield knowing that he's going to switch out. He predicts that that John is going to switch into Tapu Bulu and clicks Sludge Wave. And sure enough, there's the Tapu Bulu. There's the Sludge Wave. Swampert OHKOs. So, very nice prediction. Very key. But unfortunately, Swampert does get taken down by a Porygon Z Hyper Beam. So, rest in peace, Swampert. You will be missed. Skarmory comes in, sets up a Swords Dance. Battlerex sacrifices Meloetta to a Brave Bird. Xurkitree comes in, goes for the Z Hypnosis, but it misses. So, burning a Z Crystal, never fun. Jolteon is sitting in front of Xurkitree and sets up a Curse. You heard that right. Curse Jolteon. Mimikyu comes in, sets up a Swords Dance, hits Skarmory with a Shadow Claw. This is when we find out that Skarmory is running Weak Armor and Sky Attack. Oh boy. It goes into Brave Bird. It goes for a Brave Bird on Mimikyu's Sash, which does make it go down to the recoil damage. Mimikyu lives off of its Sash, but Piloswine comes in, knocks it out with an Ice Shard. Piloswine then dies to a Kartana Leaf Blade. Jolteon versus Xurkitree once again, but Jolteon is running Synchro Noise. Yes, Synchro Noise. We finally see it. Como-O sets up a sub and a belly drum with the Salac Berry, gets the speed boost, gets the maximum attack, but a Dragon Claw is still not enough to take down Uxie. Brings it down to really low health, but it's not enough. Uxie does take down Como-O with the Zen Headbutt. Never fear, Kartana is here, proceeds to go on a Leaf Blade rampage, and cleans up the rest of John's team, taking out PZ, Uxie, Jolteon. So, yet again, we see another case where Amon comes in late game and just cleans up. So, Battlerex with a really nice win. Really good predictions on his part, especially with the Swampert with the Sludge Wave onto Tapu Bulu. John bringing some really interesting sets. Both coaches bringing interesting sets. So it was a fun match to watch. It's fun to watch it from both their perspectives. Both coaches, Steve and John have great respect for each other. Both of them have been doing this since the beginning. Just to watch them still genuinely enjoy themselves, even though Battlerex has no chance of going to the playoffs. John has cemented his spot. So, a good win for Battlerex and the Milwaukee Sawsbucks. They finished the season with a couple of nice wins, so hey. They finished season 3-9. So, yeah, really good sets. Both coaches having fun. Us having fun watching this match. And Battlerex, I hope in the off season, I genuinely hope that you go and fuck yourself. What about you, Confusion?
Well, I have to agree with that last statement, 100%. I hope you... I second that. But,
no disrespect, Battlerex, but after last
season... No, disrespect!
No. After last season being called out amongst the list of analysts for picking against him, and he got that surprise win, and he went on a fuck you rant. It was a little bit back at... No disrespect, Battlerex. Nothing but respect for the Sawsbucks. So, sorry about that.
No, I have to say, when it comes to how Battlerex played this game, it's kind of how I wish he played throughout the season. Which is, yes, you could bring your heat, you could bring your good sets, but make sure that you kind of use those sets in the beginning to whittle down fat teams, and then bring in a sweeper like Kartana. That's how a Pokemon like Kartana I figured out works in the draft league. It can come in and can wreck shop, but you have to make sure that you kind of weakened some other threats. Any Pokemon can carry HP Fire into a KO Kartana. I'm pretty sure like any Mon can do that. So it's definitely dangerous to play around with the Kartana, but if you weaken down a team enough, Kartana can cause a lot of damage. So going into the next match, we have the Tampa Bay Luxrays up against the San Francisco Arcaniners. Monotoule bringing Salazzle, Greninja, Miltank, Florges, Rhydon, and Bisharp, and George bringing Togekiss, Entei, Raikou, Mew, Mienshao, and Suicune. Now, this game was complete meme. This was a meme battle. I would highly recommend you guys go check it out. The replay will be in the description if you weren't able to see it. So if you want to go look at that first, go ahead, open that down below, watch the game, crack up, and then come back to see what we have to say about it. But if you are already back or you didn't even bother looking and you just want to hear what we're going to say, the game started off with a special Mienshao just knocking out the Rhydon first turn with Aura Sphere. That is the first little bit of spicy meme you're going to see in there. Special Mienshao. And then as Monotoule brings in his Calm Mind, brings in his Florges, the Mienshao clicks Calm Mind like 3 times. What Florges does in the meantime is it clicks Camouflage so we can get the normal typing, and then has Return. So it is physically offensive with Return, has a Life Orb, and it stabs. So it does like 83% of that Mienshao, and knocks it to its Lychee Berry, which raises Mienshao's attack by 1 as it clicks Baton Pass to the Raikou. The Raikou clicks Thunderbolt, but is not able to kill the Florges, and the Florges is able to click Return. Later on, we do see that Togekiss has Drain Punch and is able to OHKO the Bisharp right off the bat because it has the Hustle and the Life Orb. So Togekiss does kill the Bisharp right away. We then have a Transform Mew, which transforms into a Meme Miltank, which has Defense Curl and Rollout with Milk Drink and Metronome. Please go see the Metronome things that happen, because it's hilarious. We then have a Work Up Greninja. Greninja gets two work and walk in. And then we have, George does bring a few just normal sets. He has like an Aqua Ring, Suicune, and some other things in that sense. And Monotoule brings Dragon Spam Salazzle, running Dragon Pulse, Dragon Claw, Dragon Tail, and Hidden Power Dragon. Definitely not a serious match, guys, but if you want to get a laugh and a kick out of these two players who have both already ensured their playoff position and just wanted to have some fun, go check out that match. It is a 2-0 win for George, so in terms of his record when it comes to, my record in Season 7, he is going to get a +2 differential and another win, so it was a meme battle, but someone did win, so really fun. Go check that out, but what did you think of it, Spastic?
Memes. The memes were strong with this one. So, Togekiss. I know that Togepi and Togetic have arms, those stubby little zits that you can call arms. Togekiss has no arms to speak of. In fact, it's just a blimp with wings. How in the 9 hells is that thing drain punching? That's like Dust Noir with Mega Kick. How does this happen? I feel like some evolutions should lose access to certain moves. But anyway, so a meme-tacular match. Again, guys, go watch it in the description below. Check it out. Hilarious to watch. But finally, the last match of the week. We are going to talk about the most epic match of the entire week. We're talking about the Florida Gators versus the Free State Torcats. Gator bringing Xerneas, Mewtwo, Reshiram, Primal Kyogre, Mega Lucario, and Lunala, while Duncan brings Arceus Fairy, Mega Gengar, Primal Groudon, Zekrom, Solgaleo, and Pheromosa. Now, first turn, both Primals hit the field. The weathers just negate each other. Both of them switch out. Solgaleo and Lunala,
I don't think that happened. I don't know. Nah, I don't think they even played actually.
So Tapu Lele didn't come in, KO both coaches, and then both benches emptied. That didn't happen?
I don't think so. There's a chance, but I don't think they played. I am so sorry.
That might have been a showdown dream I had. I can't even tell anymore.
It's totally okay. All you need to know, Spastic, is that Gator is going to take the win, gets +3 in his differential, and Duncan takes the loss, -3. But don't even worry. I'm sure the dream you had about Tapu Lele killing both trainers was great. But going into the league leaders...
It's Pokemon. Nobody dies. They just get knocked out.
Right. Trainers got knocked out.
All right. Yes.
But going into the league leaders, guys, this is the last of the league leaders. We are going to go into the top kills of Season 7 of the GBA. So drum roll, please. We can't afford a drum roll, so thank you, Spastic. Cobalion is going to be the league leader for kills of GBA Season 7, rocking out total of 16 kills and only 7 deaths, rocking out with a +9 differential, and props to the Detroit Steelwings. Next up, we do have the Florida Gators, someone who we haven't seen too much up here in the league leaders, is snatching that number 2 spot, nice and silver, with 15 kills and 6 deaths, also a +9 differential. And again, we have Crimson Seabad, Steve, actually I should say Steve, Chase with Crocodile, 14 kills, 6 deaths, and a +8 differential. Going through 4 through 10, we are going to look at the monsters that have been destroying this season. We have Victini and Terrakion back to back. Nice and Dan, even though he could not make it to playoffs, definitely showed that Victini and Terrakion were his offensive MVPs, as Victini got 14 kills and Terrakion got 13. Curum Black, Chimp showing that thing is a monster in League format and even will still be in Gen 7, getting 12 kills, 6 deaths. Mew, great Z Captain, great Pokemon in general. George used that thing fantastically, back to back with his Garchomp, as they both have 12 kills and 6 or 7 deaths. Greninja, Monotoule, making sure that everyone knows that he still played super well. Don't forget how well he played in the first half of the season. Greninja getting 12 kills, 7 deaths. And lastly, MV, the man, the myth, the legend, the most wins for this season, is able to snatch up Virizion very, very late, number 10, 11 and 4 with a +7 differential. Spastic, what do you think of the official league leaders of GBA Season 7?
The Swords of Justice, the Three Musketeers. Call them what you will, they have reigned supreme across this kill leader board for a good chunk of the season. Cobalion has been in the top 3. In fact, Cobalion was number 1 for the entire season, except for last week when Heatran snatched that spot away for 1 week. Chase brought Cobalion, it had a wonderful performance, and it reclaimed its number 1 spot. Also, with Crocodile, boom, putting on a monstrous performance this season. Detroit Steelwings, even though they didn't make it to the playoffs, both of those offensive mons putting in great work. And again, with Victini and Terrakion of the St. Louis Rampardos, Dan didn't make it to the playoffs, but he is very comfortable with both Victini and Terrakion. They are both offensive monstrosities, and Dan showing once again that he is very comfortable and knowledgeable of both of those monsters, knows how to use them in and out and to their maximum potency. How do words. So again, this kill leaderboard is not really surprising. Greninja finally popping into the top 10. It is a great offensive mon, even with just Torrent. Even though it cannot rock Protean, it's still great with its speed and its mixed attack stats. Garchomp, that thing is a monster through and through. Mew, it's such a variable, you never know what it's going to do, and here it is sitting in the top of the kill leaders. Curum Black, it needs no explanation. That thing hits like a semi and a half. So these kill leaders are great. Fun to see the Swords of Justice, the Three Musketeers sitting up here. So let's talk about the conference standings, shall we? I've harped on these guys enough.
Yeah, I mean, just one more thing. As you were mentioning about the Swords of Justice, I did realize that Cobalion is number 1, Terrakion is number 5, and Virizion is number 10. So they definitely have spread out over the league leaders. But lastly, as we've been saying all season, oh, don't look at the standings right now, they're going to change. No, they will officially not be changing. What you see right now is the official standings for GBA Season 7. As you can see, the first thing that obviously is going to pop out to majority of you is the Pittsburgh Piratas and the San Diego Chimp Chargers. Top grabbing no wins this season. An annoying negative 39 differential, 12 losses, super frustrating to see. And then you see the San Diego Chimp Chargers with 10 wins, only 2 losses, and a plus 26 differential. Nobody else has gotten 10 wins, so he is definitely at the top when it comes to the standings. He has left a standing impression when it comes to how he performed this season. It is amazing. Other people at the top of their divisions, we have the San Francisco Arcaniners with 9-3 at the top of their division, Philadelphia Scissors at 9-3 at the top of their division, and San Francisco Giants at 8-4 at the top of their division. When you look at that, obviously the Utah Jasmine, even though they were at the top for a long while, were beaten out by amazing opponents, Detroit Steel Wings, San Jose Sharpedos. And looking at the rest, Milwaukee Sawsbucks still picked up at least 3 wins, so he at least, gave it a shot. Free State Torcats, 4 wins. A lot of negatives, a lot of positives. Really fun to see how everyone performed, and what do you think of it?
So, looking at 3 of the 4 division leaders: San Diego Chimp Chargers, San Francisco Giants, San Francisco Arcaniners. We need another San team. We need Tom to go into the Ula Ula division and just sweep through everybody, so we can have the San leaders. Regardless, all these coaches putting in great work this season. Even though Tup did not pick up a win this season, he still performed wonderfully this season, proving that he is still a good battler. But the level of competition is ramping up each and every season, so I fully expect Tup to take the off season, get familiar with Gen 7, and then come back stronger than ever. Maybe he'll launch another Worst to First campaign, and this time I sincerely hope that it is successful. Callum and Duncan, new additions to the GBA this season, both of them putting on good performances. Neither one of them going to the playoffs, but both of them giving really great performances, showing that they are indeed competitive battlers to be taken mostly seriously. And then we have at the top, we have MV, obviously, proving that he is one of the most potent competitive battlers in league format. Geo turning around a rough midseason to a positive 7-win streak, coming in at 8-4 at the top of the Melee division. George very well could be making another championship run. Maybe we'll see back-to-back championships. Who knows? But Chimpact putting in great performance, leading their divisions. But the Florida Gators, the San Jose Sharpedos, the New Orleans Pelipers, and the Tampa Bay Luxrays are not to be trifled with. All 4 of those coaches are putting in great work, have put in great work this season, and are going to put in great work during the playoffs. I'm sure we'll see several upsets, but we will find out next week when we cover the first week of the playoffs.
That is going to wrap up Week 12. Let me, like Spastic just said, remind you guys that we will be here next week to cover the first week of playoffs. But I do want to thank you guys for sticking with us throughout the weekly recaps. Those that have supported us, those that have not, we appreciate all that you have given us, all that you have watched, all of your input. It is greatly appreciated. And as much as I hope you guys enjoyed the series, we definitely enjoyed making it. Watching the battles has been a blast. And this season in general has been a lot of fun. So I want to primarily, on behalf of me and Spastic, thank you guys for being amazing. And we are very much looking forward to next week as the playoffs for GBA Season 7 begin. We will see you guys next week. Peace.